You had mentioned that you use a special technique to get folks thinking, right? And share us with that.
Right. So I use the acronym SOAR.
Okay.
And the S is for self-awareness. The O is for optimization. The A is for action. The R is for review.
Okay, so we wanted on this program, because we didn't get nearly enough time to talk about that, and I think that's something that can be extremely helpful to our viewers. And so let's just go through them, one by one. So it starts with self-awareness.
Correct.
And so what is that? Sort of how does someone go through that? What would someone that's watching right now, be able to do right now as they're watching that would begin to give them some of those insights as to who they are and where they are?
Yeah. Self-awareness is a prerequisite of change. One cannot change, or it's impossible for one to change unless that person knows where he or she is. So it's important to become aware of your surroundings. It's also important to be aware of your mindset, your state of mind. And there are two ways to become aware as to where you are and who you are. The first way is through introspection.
Okay.
Take a look at the man in the mirror. Take a look at yourself. And one way of doing that is to ask yourself the question, where am I? Where do I need to be? And how will I get there? By asking those existential questions, you will start finding yourself getting answers to those. And once you get answers to those, then you will be aware as to where you are and how to move from where you are to where you want to be.
Okay.
The second way to create awareness is to ask people around you.
Oh, okay.
Ask people in your network. If you want to be aware as to how well you're doing as a dad, as a father, ask your child or children on a scale of 1 to 10, how is dad doing?
Right.
If you want to know how well you're doing as a spouse, ask your spouse, how am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10?
Right.
And if your spouse, for example, says, I'll give you a 5, then you want to ask your spouse, where would you want me to be?
Right.
On the scale of 1 to 10. If the spouse says a 9, for example, then one of the next questions you want to ask, what do I need to move from a 5 to a 10?
Right.
Creates a certain amount of awareness. Because without being aware of something, you're not able to change it.
Wow, but I can, wow. It's interesting sometimes to hear what others' perception of us is versus our own perception of us. So do you find that sometimes, what others say about me and what I think of myself is like completely, like how do you deal with that? Like how do you?
Yeah, well, it's possible that the way how somebody sees you, it may not be the way you see yourself. But it's worth taking a look at it, to evaluate it, to see whether or not there may be something you need to change or something you need to look at. So ultimately, the decision is going to be with you, but you need to take a look at what the person is saying. The truth of the matter is, you can't see yourself in the picture if you're in the frame.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Okay, we all have blind spots.
Right.
And that's why it's important to get a perspective from somebody else.
Okay.
But it's also important for you to evaluate that perspective to see whether or not there is something you need to do to move from where you are to where you need to be.
So would you, in the self-awareness step, do you normally start with the introspective, like like my own assessment of myself, or do you normally suggest they begin with others' perspective of me, or does it matter?
It's always good to take a look at yourself first.
Okay.
To say, okay, where am I right now as a husband, as a wife, as a professional, whatever area you want to take a look at, professionally, spiritually, and otherwise. It's always good to take a look at yourself and ask yourself those existential questions. And then once you've done that, then you can go outward, work with your surroundings or the people in your network and ask those questions. I have to say, it takes guts to ask those questions.
I was gonna say that probably does take some courage, right?
Yeah.
Because you might not always like what you hear.
Exactly, but it takes courage to change.
Now, you used a phrase on the last program where sort of failure is not failure. It's like it's what do you say, feedback? Was it
There are no failures, only feedback.
only feedback, right? And so I guess that's sort of what the mindset you have to go into this
Right.
with, right? Is I'm going to ask others. I want an honest
Yeah.
opinion. I know, like years ago, and I don't even know if it's still done, but they used to do like in, businesses like that 360-degree feedback.
Yeah.
And, supervisors would ask staff. A lot of times it was done anonymously.
Yeah. Yeah.
To try to facilitate folks being more truthful.
Right.
Is that a similar kind of thing that you're looking at here?
Correct. Yeah, it's similar to that. And in addition to that, at the end of each day, even taking 15 minutes just to introspect, look over your day, see what went right, not necessarily what went wrong, what went right, what was missing, you're getting the feedback. So you could do what I call feed forward and move forward in whatever area of life you want to move or change.
Okay. So at the end of the day, just sort of like a review of what
went well.
Well, okay.
Yeah. Was anything missing?
Okay.
Not necessarily what went wrong. And the reason for that,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So why not? Yeah. What went wrong?
the way how the mind functions is that we generally focus on, whatever we focus on generally expands.
Okay.
If you focus on something that went wrong, the mind has a way of going negative.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But if you focus on what went right and how can I add to that to make it better,
Oh, I see.
then the mind starts looking for solutions
Oh, that's
as
interesting.
opposed to more problems.
Oh, okay. So stack the good side.
Yeah.
What went right? And how do I do that
Yeah.
and make that even better?
Exactly.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
And that's not a long, like it'd be like 15 minutes? or
15
something?
minutes.
Like, do you recommend folks write it in a journal or?
It's always good to write
Yeah.
things down.
It'd be interesting to go back
Yeah.
over time, right? Go back at that and
Yeah.
review on that. Okay.
Exactly.
So self-awareness, ask yourself some questions, am I happy where I'm at? And then get that feedback. So that can be done relatively informally, right?
Sure, of course.
Sit around with the kids and the wife
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and tell me what,
What do you think?
wow.
What do you think?
I don't know, man. That's kind of scary, right?
Change is never easy.
Yeah.
But if you're going to change, you have to become aware of what needs to change.
Right.
And a lot of people won't change unless they're experiencing a certain amount of pain.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. I actually, in the last program, I was going to mention, because we get a lot of viewers and a lot of correspondence from folks that find themselves, for example, in prison.
Yeah.
Do you find that for some folks, like, you have to hit the proverbial rock bottom before you make that change, right?
To a certain extent, because people generally change for two reasons. One, it's painful being where you are. And two, it's a pleasure being where you want to be.
Oh,
The anticipated pleasure of where you want to
Okay.
be. So if I want to change, like for example, when I decided to change, I was tired of where I was.
right,
Being poor was painful,
right,
and I decided I was going to succeed or I was going to die.
right.
So if it's not that painful, people won't change.
Got it.
Or if it's not pleasurable, if you're not anticipating the
Right.
pleasure of changing, then you may never change.
Okay. So once you've gotten that picture, sort of where you are,
Yeah.
that's the S, right? The self-awareness. Then the O stands for
Optimization.
optimization. So what is that? Man, that's a big word. I grew up in Kensington Market, man. I'm not sure that I use that word a lot in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
What is that? So what's
So
optimization?
optimization is the ability to leverage whatever resources you have and to use what you have in a more efficient way.
So okay,
And the best way to do that is to develop a plan,
okay,
okay? The first step in developing a plan is to visualize where you want to be.
okay,
Where do you want to be the next 2 to 3 years?
okay.
And lock that in, visualize it, hold that picture in your mind, then come back into the present and start putting some steps into place.
Okay. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're suggesting like 2 or 3, like not like where you want to be 20 years from now? Is that too big of a step?
That's not too big of a step, For some people, it is too big of a step. But for others, it's always good to look at yourself. This may sound morbid, but for me, I think about my own death
Okay.
whenever I'm thinking about what I want to do today.
Right.
And because I want to live each day as if it was my last. So it's okay to think about yourself sitting in your rocking chair as a senior citizen and say to yourself, okay, what do I want my life to look like when I'm aged?
Right.
And then work your way backward.
Right.
Okay?
I got a sense we don't do a lot of that.
No, we don't.
We don't, right? We sort of live life
Yeah.
sort of as it comes, and we sort of adapt, and
Yeah.
you get to a point in your life where you realize, oh my goodness, like,
Yeah.
like when I think about the fact that I graduated from university 34 years ago, let me tell you something, man. It feels like it was last month,
Yeah,
and it's been a lifetime.
yeah.
So time does go by
Right.
extremely fast. So you suggest, so craft that picture of where you want to be in the future,
Yeah.
and then sort of step back into the present.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm assuming that's a large part of what you do then
Yeah.
is to help. So how do we craft that plan, right?
Yeah.
To get you from where you are here to where it is you need to go, right?
So the first thing is to develop that picture as to where you want to be. Because if you don't know where you want to be, you won't be able to get there.
Right.
So that's the first step. Visualize it, see it clearly in your mind, come back to the present, and then you start planning it. So there are certain categories that you could work with. Like, for example, professionally, where do I want to be in the next 2 to 3 years?
Right.
As it relates to my relationship, where do I want to be in the next 2 to 3 years? As it relates to my personal life, where do I want to be in the next 2 to 3 years? Where do I want to be in the next 2 to 3 years financially?
Right.
And once you can kind of see that, for example, I want to lose 20 pounds in the next.
Okay, now why did you pick that one? Has my wife been talking to you?
No. We haven't spoken, but yeah. That's one of the challenges most people have.
Right.
Yeah, financial and health.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to heaven, man.
Yeah.
Where I will be changed in the twinkling of an eye.
You
man.
got it.
So you see a lot of that health and
Health, finance.
yeah, you would think that, like, I look at myself and I think, man, I should be more motivated too on those areas that are so critical. But I don't know. It's tough, right?
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
So are there things that you can do to help folks kickstart? Like as you develop this plan, like is bite-sized, like baby steps? Like, well, I always hear about that. I don't know if that's in fact true.
It's important. Consistency compounds. So if you say in the next 2 to 3 years, this is what I want, you also need to break it down into smaller bites.
Okay.
There are long-term goals, short-term goals. What do I need to do today?
Right.
What do I need to do this week? What do I need to do next month? What do I need to do this year? Very, very important. Because one of the reasons people are so unhappy is because they don't have goals.
Right.
And goals have a way of keeping you focused.
Got it.
Because once you're focused on something, it's easier for you even to push through difficult times.
Right, because your eyes are fixed on
Exactly.
that outcome. Now, you mentioned optimizing existing, like what you currently have. Does it require sometimes an of acquiring a skill set or things that we don't currently have? Is that part of the?
It is.
That can be part of it also.
It is. You may not necessarily have the resource right away, but you should be resourceful. So what do I need to get from here to there? If I don't have it, where can I find it? Who knows how to do this? It's always more important to ask, how do I get it? More important to ask, pardon me, who knows how to do this as opposed to how do I get it?
Right, okay.
Because there are people out there who are already doing what you're doing, and they may have the insight to pass that information on to you.
Yes.
Success leaves clues, in essence.
Yes, excellent. Okay, so we're running out. Okay, we got a little bit of time here. So that's the S, self-awareness. O, optimization.
Yeah.
I just learned a new word here.
Yeah.
And A stands for action.
Yeah.
So up till this part, it's been a lot of thinking and planning, right?
Yeah.
But now is when the proverbial rubber hits the road, right?
Yeah, it's time to get in the game. You can't drive the car unless you get in the car. You can't play on the field unless you get on the field. You can't learn to swim unless you get in the pool. So it's important to execute. Execution is now very, very important. In order for you to get results, you got to start doing some things. There are a lot of people who are waiting until they have all the answers,
Okay, yes.
or they have everything in place. It's always important to take action, and as you keep going, then you continue to build momentum, and you may need to correct what you need to correct as you go along. But never wait until everything is perfect. It's time to take action. Once you have a plan, go and take action.
Yeah, because I think chances are you're never going to have everything lined up perfectly
Correct.
ever, right?
Correct.
Now, on the previous program, you had mentioned that you had given a percentage of how much time and efforts spent in the planning stages, and I found, maybe you can share, because I found that I found that interesting, that what you said there.
Yeah, well, 80% of your success is going to be in the execution.
Wow.
20% is on the planning.
Wow.
Because you can have amazing plan, but if you don't act on it,
Yeah.
you will not get a results.
I would think for most people, they probably, because the planning piece is a lot more comfortable for us
Yeah.
than the actual getting out there and doing it. Right?
Yeah, you know, I've passed it a lot. I've passed it for quite a while, and one of the things I've always seen is that a lot of people are always planning.
Yeah. That, to be honest with you, that's also my big beef.
Yeah,
Is that we spend a lot of time talking about
yeah,
what we should be doing rather than just get out
yeah,
and do it.
yeah,
Right? Because I would agree with you, even if it's not perfect, like you'll make the adjustments just to get out there and create that momentum, right?
Right.
Create that consistency, right?
Exactly.
And again, a coach
will help.
will help you with
Yeah.
that, right? Sort of.
Yeah.
Do you find that it helps if they have someone that holds them accountable?
It works best.
It does, right?
Yeah, because if you're going to succeed, you're going to need a support system around you. And that support system may consist of a coach, it may be consisted of a mentor, it could be a friend, but it's very, very important to have somebody who could hold you accountable to what you said you were going to do.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so R then is review.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to be important for you to review all the steps that you took. You may want to take a look at the end of each day, at the end of each week, at the end of each month, at the end of each year. Review the year, review the month, and just to check to see if you're making progress. Am I hitting my goals?
Okay.
Am I achieving my goals? And if I'm not achieving them, what do I need to do to ensure that I achieve the goals next week or next month? So reviewing is a very, very significant process as you work towards being successful, as you work towards living your best life. Without that, that ties back into the awareness piece.
Okay.
You cannot change what you're not aware of.
Right.
And as you review, you want to see if you're making progress or where you're falling, and so you could adjust accordingly. And a part of the process of reviewing is to refine.
Okay.
So having reviewed and you discover that you're off target, it's going to be important for you to refine it, to say what's missing, what do I need to adjust? And you refine that plan, and then you repeat the process.